والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
Islam 101.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillahi amma ba'du. Welcome to another episode of Islam 101, where we're dealing with topics concerning the fundamentals and the basics about the religion of Al-Islam. We have today from amongst our students on the panel, to my right, Brother Jamil, and to his right, Brother Noor, and to my immediate left, Brother Muhammad al-Afghani, and to his left, Brother Ahmed. Today's topic, inshallah, is dealing with a critical issue, a very important issue that people from all religions and all walks of life, they tend to fall into it. And whoever falls into this particular issue, which is a contradiction to any religion, they're going to create for themselves problems, and they're going to create for other people problems as well. And that is the issue of extremism, or what is called in Arabic al-ghulu, or al-tatarruf, or al-itra, to be extreme. Before talking about this issue and shedding light upon it from the angle of the religion of Al-Islam, I would like to make a very important point, and that is the need that we have to be extremely careful as it relates to allowing people who have political agendas, political programs. We have to be careful of not allowing those people to define for us and to dictate for us what extremism is. Because in the religion of Al-Islam, the word at-tatarruf comes from the word at-taraf, which means the end of something. So if you take a stick, if you take anything and it has two sides to it, then that is the taraf, that is the extreme. So extremism in Al-Islam can be something where a person is going overboard to the right, or they can be going overboard to the left. It is that person who unnecessarily puts a lot of pressure on himself in the way that he's practicing. He wants to pray all day. He wants to fast all day. He wants to do those things that are beyond the call of duty. This is, in the religion of Islam, extremism. But the other extreme as well is the person who doesn't pray at all. The person who doesn't learn about the religion. The person who doesn't make any effort. Unfortunately, the people who have political agendas because of their liberalisms, what they want to do is they want to point the finger of blame only to the people who are practicing. And they're blameworthy. The people who are practicing their religion and they go overboard. They're blameworthy for going overboard. But those people who are going to the extreme on the other side are just as blameworthy. So we've been speaking over and over, and we've been telling you about the issue of the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the middle course in Al-Islam concerning all of our affairs. I would just like to, not to detract from the issue, but to shed some light on the importance of why we think this is important. We look at the word terrorism and terrorist, and we see that terrorism has been defined to the point where it has become synonymous with Islam or the Muslim. That's the terrorist, and that's what terrorism is. It's the Muslims, and it's what the Muslims do. Even though the vast majority of people who perpetrate terrorism in the world today are not the Muslims. And then to say that what happened in Spain recently with the running of the bulls, for that not to be described as terrorism is unfair. That the people unjustly and unmercifully killed the bull for what reason? Because of a sport and a game. To drop carpet bombs on innocent people in a whole village, to kill 500,000 children as a result of your economic sanctions. If that's not terrorism, I swear by Allah, I don't know what terrorism is. To go overboard in the way you chastise and beat your child. Some people, the way that they fall into the crime of child abuse, that's terrorism. So the point is, we do not want to allow people with political agendas to define for us what extremism is. Extremism in Al-Islam, whether it's all the way to the right or the person who's going all the way to the left, both of them are madhmoon. Both of them are criticized and they're looked down upon and frowned upon in the religion of al-Islam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went through many efforts in order to explain how extremism is not acceptable in the religion of al-Islam, and how many of the nations that came before the nation of al-Islam fell into extremism. A glaring example of that is what has been collected for us in the authentic hadith that's been collected by Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim. And as we mentioned, whenever there's a hadith that's been agreed upon by Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim, then this is the highest hadith in the religion of Islam. The narrator of the hadith is Abdullah ibn Abbas, who said that when they were performing the Hajj, the pilgrimage with the Prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Abdullah ibn Abbas, go and pick up for me 7 rocks. 7 rocks so that I can stone the Aqaba al-Kubra. That's one of the actions and one of the forms of worship that the pilgrim does whenever he performs Hajj. The important part is the story. So the Prophet waited for Abdullah ibn Abbas to go, and he came back with some rocks. The 7 rocks that Abdullah ibn Abbas picked up were rocks that were relatively large. He gave Rasulullah the 7 rocks. Rasulullah took them in his hand, and then he threw them on the ground. And he told the companions, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْغُلُوَ فِي الدِّينِ فَإِنَّهُ أَهْلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلُكُمْ الْغُلُوَ فِي الدِّينِ. He said, be careful, beware, you Muslims, beware of going overboard. Beware of being extreme in your religion. For verily, extremism destroyed the people who went before you when they had it in their religion. So that is a clear example of how he didn't allow extremism. And look at the wisdom, because this is the nature of extremism. If it was allowed for Abdullah ibn Abbas to give Rasulullah those big rocks, whenever he throws the Jamara, whenever he throws the rocks at the Jamara, during that time, maybe he's going to hit the Jamara because there weren't many people. But today, there are over 3 million people. At one given time, 200, 300, 400,000 people are gathered at that place. So a person may be 20 meters, 30 meters away from the actual target. So when he throws, he doesn't hit the Jamara, but instead he hits someone in the back of his head with a big rock. And that is the nature of extremism. It's going to ultimately hurt other people. So the Prophet told Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he told the Muslims as a result, stay away from and be careful of extremism in the religion. Because those people who came before you, they were destroyed by extremism in the religion. What people was he referring to? He was referring to the people who Allah revealed to them divine books and sent to them prophets and messengers, meaning the Jews and the Christians. They went overboard and they had extremes in their religion. The Jews, for an example, they had extremes in their religion because they said, we take Moses and we praise and we raise and we hold Moses in reverence and honor and respect. But we reject Muhammad and we reject Jesus. And they said that Jesus was an illegitimate child and Muhammad is a false prophet. So on one hand, they went overboard and they went to the extremes in Moses. And then they went to the extreme on the other hand with the negativity concerning Muhammad and Isa, Jesus. And then we have the Christians who said, we take Jesus and we take Moses. Not only do we take Jesus though, but we raise him up to the level where he becomes the Son of Allah, the Son of God. And his mother is the Mother of God. And he's one of 3. And he's divine. And he died for our sins. And they went overboard. And then they went overboard in the opposite direction by saying that Muhammad is a false prophet and we don't believe in Muhammad. So that's another problem with extremism. When you go to the extremes in your love for someone, you raise him too high. Whenever he does something wrong, you won't say that he's wrong because you have extremism in him. On the other hand, if you have extremism in the negative and you hate for another person, no matter what he does, you're not going to accept the truth, even if it comes from him. This is not the religion of al-Islam. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا تطروني كما أطرت النصارى عيسى بن مريم. وَلَكِنْ قُولُوا عَبْدُ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولُهُ. He told the Muslims, do not go overboard with me. Do not be extreme with me. Don't go overboard, as the Christians went overboard with Jesus, the son of Maryam. But say about me, say that I am the slave of Allah, the messenger of Allah, and that's it. So now, as it relates to the issue of extremism, the Muslim is not given the green light to be extreme in his religion. He has to remain in the middle course. But unfortunately, we find that Muslims have gone overboard in their religion. We've gone overboard in that certain Muslims say that Rasulullah, Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, they say that he's created from the light of Allah, from the nur of Allah, that Allah is inside of Rasulullah. So therefore, when they make supplication and they make dua to Rasulullah. His wife is pregnant, he wants to take a test, he makes a dua, supplication. Ya Rasulullah, help me with this, help me with that, help me with this, help me with that. Ya Rasulullah, ask Allah to do this and to do that. That's al-ghulu in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They have al-ghulu in one of the eminent personalities in al-Islam, Ali ibn Abi Talib, who is a tremendous scholar, who was a tremendous companion. We told you something of his life, something of his history in the series that we did concerning the companions of the Prophet of al-Islam. So there are a group of people who went overboard to the right as it relates to Ali, and other group went overboard to the left. Some people said that Ali is also Allah reincarnated. Some people say that Ali is the one who should have been the leader after Rasulullah. And all of the companions, all of them, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, all of the companions, they apostated after Rasulullah. The only Muslim who remained on the religion is Ali and a few other companions, 4 or 5. This is ghulu, going overboard to the other side. And then we have other people who, they don't like Ali. They hate Ali ibn Abi Talib. And they say that Ali was a criminal and Ali himself was an individual who was not practicing the religion of al-Islam. So we have, in this case, both instances are classic examples of ghulu, or being extreme. We have to be in the middle course. We have Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, another issue. Another form of ghulu or extremism that we find present today, and we're going to deal with this issue, inshallah, in further detail, is the issue about the madhahib, or the 4 schools of thought. This person may be Shafi'i, this one is Hanafi, I may be Maliki, this one here is Hanbali, this one over here is Zahiri. So each person is on his madhab, on his school of thought. And he says, all of Islam is in my school of thought and that's it. It's not in the other school of thought. Or he says, my school of thought is the only school of thought that is the correct one. And anyone else on another school of thought is not on what is correct. We'll come back, inshallah, after the break, and we'll have the participation of our students, and we'll further deal with this particular issue in detail. So we're looking forward to you tuning in for the second half of this episode.
Islam 101.
What do parents want from their teens?
In the current times, I think that that's not what's so. I think that young people are very unique.
You tell them right, they say no, it's left. You said okay, it's left. They say it's right.
Actually, a lot of time amongst ages 14 to 20 are spent on the computer and TV.
Everyone has a good side and a bad side, and the peers really play on these.
If you want to live by the Sunnah, you're going to be different than everybody else in the society, even other Muslims.
Physically and financially able to get married, they should get married. This is what the Sunnah tells us.
And please do not let this type of gang life go any farther.
We're attempting to bridge the gap that seems to be growing more and more every day.
Islam 101.
Welcome back once again to the second half of this episode of Islam 101, where we've been discussing the issue of extremism in the religion of al-Islam, and how the Quran and the authentic Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to eradicate this practice and the concept of extremism. Allah told us in the Quran, Ya Ahlal Kitab, La taghlu fi dinikum, wa la taqulu ala Allahi illa al-haq. O people of the book, do not go to extremes in your religion, and do not say about Allah except that which is the truth. So don't go into the extremes as it relates to Jesus being the Son of God. He's not the Son of God simply because he was born according to the Immaculate Conception which we believe in. Adam didn't have a mother or a father, so he's not considered to be the Son of God. So why should Jesus be considered to be the Son of God? In addition to that, the practice of extremism amongst the Jews and the Christians and other than them is when we find a monk or a priest or an individual trying to seclude himself in a cave or in a monastery and he doesn't eat, or she becomes a nun and she makes prohibited upon herself the marriage that is a beautiful part of the existence for any human being, to find their soulmate and to live on this earth in happiness with a soulmate. So all of these are forms of extremism. Not eating. The person who says, I don't want to eat any meat because I don't want to kill animals, for an example. You have a choice. If you don't want to eat meat, that's okay. You can be a vegetarian, even in the religion of Islam. But to say eating meat is oppressive towards animals, that's a form of extremism. That in Islam, you're not allowed to impose that idea or that position on someone else. The meat and the animals, like everything else that's in this world, has been created for us and subjugated to mankind. But it is an amana. And we talked about the importance of the amana and how to understand the amana, or the trust that Allah has given to mankind to take care of all of what is in the earth. So extremism has been dealt with in a number of verses of the Quran. As for the Sunnah, there are too many examples. The people came and they said to the Prophet, calling out, O Muhammad, O our leader, O son of our leader, O the best one from amongst us. And they were bigging him up and using superlatives that were beyond the call of duty. The Prophet ﷺ, how did he respond to it? Did he respond to it like some of the leaders of the world today who want to be known as this? A person who is not a sheikh. He loves and he insists that the people call him, Ya sheikh, Ya sheikh. Or he's a leader. They call him Sahibul Sumu, the eminent person. And he doesn't have any respect within himself or other than that. But he insists that people treat him like that. Did Rasulullah respond to those people like that? Did he make the people call him like that and address him like that? No, he prevented them. And he said to them, don't allow the shaitan, the devil, to overcome you people by saying this. Just say that I am Abdullah. I am Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the messenger of Allah and his slave. That's it. Don't call me the Sayyid. Don't call me the leader. Don't call me the son of the leader. And he said, this is from the shaitan. You people trying to raise a person up like that. You break his back. You break his neck. When you make him begin to think that he deserves to be addressed in those types of ways. So we have so many examples from the Quran and the Sunnah that the issue is addressed in, the issue of extremism. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to take the questions or the comments, the concerns of our students on the panel, inshallah, and hopefully we'll get some benefit from what they have to input, inshallah. Akhi Muhammad.
Yeah, my question is that if we see in our societies, we can find the case of extremism that's growing. Most of people taking the way that is not right. So what's the reason behind that? Why people take the fault way?
Why do people fall into the ways of extremism? Why do people become extreme in the religion? One of the main reasons, and I would say at the top of the list, is the fact that there's ignorance that runs rampant and is prevalent amongst the people. If the people knew their religion, then they would know that extremism is not acceptable. And this goes to show that it is not enough for a person to have a niyyah or his intention is pure. He's an extremist because he really wants to practice the religion and do the right thing. But because he doesn't have knowledge, he doesn't know how to focus that energy. He just relies on what he wants to do and what feels good to him. So I would say that's the first thing, that people don't know the reality of their religion. If he knew the reality, he would never ever say that Jesus is the Son of Allah, the Son of God, because he knows God. He doesn't need a son to come down to die for the sins of the people. Another reason is that the people insist on taking their culture and what their forefathers and their ancestors left for them. So they fall into extremism because of that. There's a story, we don't have a lot of time and we won't go into the detail about what happened with the people of Noah. Because people were not always extreme. When Allah created Adam and Eve and they had children, the people didn't go overboard. They made mistakes. Adam's son, one of them killed the other one. He had hasad or envy towards the other one. They made mistakes, but they didn't fall into polytheism, nor did they have extremes. But one of the ways that al-ghulu, extremism, was introduced to mankind was because of the 5 righteous men who were mentioned in the surah, the chapter of Noah, the 5 righteous men who used to worship Allah. And then when they died, in order to pay homage to them and to remember them, their people drew pictures of them and chiseled out images and statues of them so that whenever they saw them, they would remember their righteousness. And that's what happened. The people who made the statues and the images, whenever they would see them in their clubs, in their clubhouse, they would remember their righteousness. But those people, when they died and their children came on the scene, the devil came to the children and said, your parents, your forefathers, they used to worship them. So the children started to practice that. They started to worship those particular men. So one of the reasons we have extremism is because people inherit it from their forefathers. Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. Whenever it is said to one of them, hey, Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, so-and-so, Sheikh so-and-so, don't follow him like that. Don't make supplication to the Sheikh al-Badawi in the grave. Don't do that. He'll say, well, I'm only going to follow what I found my fathers following. So these are 2 of the main reasons. If the people got away from that, then we will be able to do away for the most part with extremism. Akhi Noor.
Okay. I find some people, some Muslimin in my country, who refuse the technology. They don't want to take technology as part in their life. So are they considered to be extreme?
As for the people who refuse technology, we have these types of people. They have an opinion that everything that is new, that is modern, is evil. No, we have to remain in the middle course. Many of the things that have been introduced to mankind, whether it's ideas, equipment, instruments, they have some harm to them. The Prophet told us in Islam, there is not a year except that the one that comes after it is worse than the one that preceded it. So right now we're living in the worst year known to mankind. And next year, inshallah, will be worse than this year. And it will continue that way until the hour is established. So anything that is new, it may have some harm to it. But we have to remain in the middle course. Many of the new inventions and new introductions into the life of mankind, they've brought a lot of benefit to our lives. Without these inventions, our lives would be very, very difficult. So Islam is not against things that are new as it relates to our life that we live. Islam is against everything that is new and that is introduced into the religion as a religious issue. The worship, this is what Islam is against. As it relates to the technology, no. We say that the technology is beneficial for mankind, but we have to take it as an amana, as a trust. We can't start to clone people. We can't start to go overboard in the technology where we start to compete with Allah. Nah, this is not permissible. But to take the good things that Allah has provided for us in terms of what technology offers to make our lives easier, this is an obligation for the Muslims to partake in. And there's no doubt about that. So this is extremism. This is an extreme point of view. To say I'm going to live in the mountain and I'm only going to live in a wood cabin and I'm only going to burn wood in order to get my heat. If you want to do that, you can do that. But don't impose that idea on other people. And don't say that Islam, for an example, is against modernization. This is not permissible. Akhi, Ahmed.
Well, my question is very short. What is the relationship between the terrorism and the extremism?
What is the relationship between terrorism and extremism. There is a connection that is wathiq. There is a close connection between the two of them. People who are extreme, they usually will fall into the realm of terrorism. When a person is extreme and he has extreme ideas, then the next thing that he wants to do is he wants to execute and he wants to implement and impose those extreme ideas on others. If it was just an issue of him being an extremist within himself, we would still say Islam frowns upon this and doesn't allow it. The three people who went to the Prophet's wives, and one of them, after hearing how Rasulullah was in his home, one of them said, I'm going to fast all the time and I'll never eat. Extremism. The other one said, I'm never going to get married to women. Extremism. The other one said, I'm going to pray all the time. Extremism. And Rasulullah didn't allow it. As a matter of fact, he freed himself. And he said, whoever leaves and abandons my way, because I get married, I pray, and I sleep. I fast and I break my fast. Whoever abandons my way, I'm free of him. He's not from me. He's not from my sunnah. So even if a person was extreme within his own self, Islam makes it impermissible. But what happens is, when he's extreme in his own self, usually he's going to now try to impose his extreme ideology on others. So what do we have? A person, he doesn't like, for an example, the doctors who commit abortion. This is a major crime in Islam. It's murder for a doctor to commit an abortion unless there's a legitimate reason to do so. So because of his extremism and his extreme hatred for that thing, he becomes a sniper and he shoots the doctor. And he goes out and he terrorizes all doctors and he shoots them. Well, on one hand, he doesn't like what's being done, murder to an innocent child, but he comes now and he kills somebody himself and he takes the law into his own hands. So the terrorism is connected to extremism because it is the next result. As we mentioned when we talked about the Khawarij, that extreme group of Muslims who, when we told you that whenever you have this idea of the Khawarij, of being extreme, the scholar said the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to take the sword out of the sheath and now the blood is going to be spilled. They'll revolt against the rulers. They're going to say takfir against the other Muslims. That's all we have for this segment right here, inshallah. And we'll have another segment concerning the issue of extremism in Al-Islam and how Al-Islam dealt with it. So we're looking forward to you to tuning in once again to Islam 101. Take care and may Allah guide us all.
Islam. Islam.